Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before I start my review, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Primatama Ahmad Nabil. I am from class 4B, and to be exact, I am from English Education Department of Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta State University. And tonight, I'd like to show you a textbook titled The McGraw-Hill Handbook of English Grammar Usage, 2nd edition, written by Mark Lester and Larry Beason. As you may know, that grammar has become a part of the important things for our life as an English speaker, and you can't really, if you don't really use grammar that much in speaking, it will be fine, but in writing it is important to use grammar. And we have to admit that sometimes some of us even forget the simplest thing, such as maybe if you ever heard of modals, part of speech, and things like that. You might not sound familiar with it, but when you see what is actually inside that part, you'll recognize that you have learned it back then when you were still in school. And with this book, this book shows you those forgotten grammar terms that you might have forgotten, but still in the it is complete and easy way. About the author, Mark Lester and Larry Beason, I didn't really find much about Mark Lester other than he's being an emeritus professor, that means a retired professor of Eastern Washington University, and he is also the founder of ESL Department of University of Hawaii. He is an experienced grammarian and he is also an ESL expert. Other than this book, he had produced around 64 books that most of them are collaboration with other writers. However, for Larry Beason, I found the information about him about that Larry Beason is a professor. He's currently a professor of University of South Alabama. He is a rhetorical analysis, composition pedagogy, grammar, and science fiction specialist. He wrote around 4 books. He also writes some reviews, and a lot of his articles are featured in several journals. Some of them are Grammar Interventions in Gaming Forums, Intersection of Academic and Non-Academic Standards, and An Anatomy of Writing Assessment. So what makes this book good? The reason that I picked this book to be reviewed is that other than it's being good, I really think that people should understand that learning grammar is not as hard as what it's thought. As you can see in here, there are 2 parts in here. The first one is Grammar 101, and the second one is how to find and correct mistakes. So even from the table contents, you can imagine that how this book is organized. The first part shows us the basic of grammar, like as you can see in here, part of speech, basic phrases, sentences and clauses, verb forms and verbals. And the second one shows you about the mistakes that we tend to see, we tend to use by ourselves, we tend to find in writing terms. Like some of them are writing complete sentences, subject-verb agreement, pronoun problems, and many more that I'll cover later. And that's the thing that makes this book different. The writer, both Mark and Larry, they assume that you, as the reader, didn't have any much background knowledge about the grammar in here. So they try to make the explanation in this book is as simple as possible. So, like I said earlier, this book is complete, but is easy to understand, even for people who are not really good at English. You don't really have to be native to learn this book. Like for example, I'll show you one of the examples in the book in here. In here, you can see there's this is a part of speech, nouns. As you can see, there are some examples in here. There's some short explanation about what is nouns. In here, it's bold to show the important part. Here are the examples of, in here we can see if there's proper noun and common nouns, and there are some example sentences over here. And also, if there is any mistake, it will be marked with this X, so the reader can understand which one is the correct sample and which one is not. Okay, first I'll cover the grammar 101. The grammar 101 in here, it tells the reader about the basic things that you need to know. Like what I said earlier in the first part, you need to learn about part of speech. The part of speech in here contains some stuff like nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and there are around 8 in here. Basic phrases in here is like the sentence, and then sentences and clauses. As you may know, there are complex sentence, simple sentence, compound sentence, things like that. And verb forms in here that you might know as the past participle, present form, present participle, and verbals. The verbals in here, it's same like modals, like with, and, or, and many more. And in here, in this book, you don't really have to remember about the whole part of part 1 to understand the part 2, because they are not really linked immediately, but you might find it helpful to understand some part of this one. So, like, here you learn that several stuffs about the basic grammar, but then in this part, you don't really have to remember things in here. They are they only focus on things that is most commonly found as a mistake in English grammar. So you don't really need to be worried this book will be complicated. No, it won't be. They only cover what's the most important part, the most common and important mistakes that people tend to use. Like someone here, there's writing complete sentences, subject verb agreement, pronoun problems, verb problems, modification, commas, apostrophes, semicolons and colons, quotation marks, capitalization, parallelism, and there's also one part in here that I personally like by myself. There is a grammar etiquette for digital communication. And yeah, these are the mistakes that we tend to see in this book. They will show the problems that might happen the most. Like for example, there is this verb problems in here. There are several like tense shifting between present and past. There's a mistake, wrong sample in here, as you can see, and choosing the right tense for past tense events. There are also some mistakes in here. And rise or raise, sit or sat, lie or lay. And after that, it continues to the explanation of each part in here. So at the first part of every for every subject, you will be shown the common problems that happens the most in that part. So like in here, you can see that there are 3 problems. This one, tense shifting. The second one is choosing the right verb for past events. And the third one, this, rise or raise, sit or sat, lie or lay. And then it starts with the subject in here. And then there's also several examples in here, as you can see. So in tense shifting between present and past, there is a sample of present tense, used for what, and then also past tense used for what, and when should we shift tenses in here. And then after everything is already explained, it continues to the second problem. Before everything is before moving to the second problem, there will be always a summary. So even if you feel a little bit lazy to read the whole thing, you can always check the summary. So it will be easier for you to understand what is this part is actually talking about. And that's the whole part of the second part. The organization of second part is literally like that. First, you're given what's the problem. The second, you'll be shown how to fix those problems, and the third, you'll be given a summary of what have been covered in the first part. And also the thing that I mentioned, the 17th part, there's also in here the index for the glossary of terms too in here. So in case you don't understand some words, like for in here, there's an there's an example of abstract nouns. The definition of abstract nouns. Abstract nouns are nouns that are not normally used in the plural or with a definite article. So as you can see, there's the definition of the words that you might found earlier in the first and second part, and you might feel that what is the meaning of this word? Even if you don't really have the time to check the dictionary, you can always check the glossary of terms. And also there's also index part for the words that you will find here. Excuse me. Pardon me for a second. As you can see, there are also index of words over here that you can find. So maybe for example, if you want to find adverb preposition phrase for modifying others in page 42 and 43, you can immediately jump to the page to find what you're looking for. Although I can't really show you in real in here, but yeah, you understand what's the meaning of it. So for this book, in conclusion, this book is complete. It has a complete explanation about the basic grammars that you might have forgotten in the past, but it is shown in a simple and understandable way that even for basic learners, this book might be useful for them. And you don't really have to have a background knowledge about grammar to learn this book. You can simply just try to be like a new reader for a new learner for grammar, and you can use this book. And I really recommend this book because, like what I said earlier, the words is simple, and then the second one, it's actually quite easy. Even if you see how thick this book is, it's like there are 255 pages in total. But trust me, this book actually covers most of the mistakes that we did in grammar writing, especially, and it's actually useful. It actually helps me to fix those mistakes. It actually helps me when after I'm reading this book, I can see that actually I've been doing a lot of mistakes that I don't realize, but those mistakes are not the most fatal one. It's something like the small detail that you didn't even realize it was there. And in this book, it's explained that that small detail is wrong. It should be done in this way. So that's all. That's all for my textbook presentation. I'm sorry for every mistake that I've done in this video, and I realized that my review is not the most perfect one. So comments and critics are always welcome to help me improve in the future. And thank you all for watching. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.